All right, hello everyone, Mr. Underkoffler here. We're going to be talking about creating an assessment in Reveal Online. Now, before we get started, a couple things. If you are not able to get your classes, because maybe you're doing this in June and your classes may have been archived, just click the Archive tab right up here. And when you do that, you can go to any of the classes, and under Class Actions, you can do Unarchive Class. So if you need to do that, feel free to do that. Another thing. Hopefully you have the Creating an Assessment in Reveal Online handout. If it's printed out, that is ideal because then you can follow along with what I'm going to go over in this video. If you don't have it printed out, you can always go to the Canvas page for secondary curriculum resources, click on Middle School Math. From there, click on Informational Resources. And then from there, you should be able to find the link for Creating an Assessment in Reveal Online. In fact, after I'm done with this recording, I'm probably going to post this video right here as well for you to be able to access at any time later on. Okay, so click on whatever course you want to, not Alex, but one of your Reveal courses. And we're going to talk about how you can create your own custom assessment, which is really a custom assignment online in Reveal. So when I say assessment, that's just the generic word that Reveal calls it. So it could be a homework, classwork, whatever you want it to be. So scroll down. And down here where it says assessments, click on that. And then if you want to create a brand new assessment, click new assessment. You can also scroll down to pre-made Reveal assessments if you would like, but the focus of this video is creating a custom assignment. So you can call it whatever you want and go ahead and create that assessment. Okay, from here, you can, in the top right-hand corner where it says add question, you can click on that and you could add an existing set of questions already pre-made by Reveal from any module that you want, or you can create a new question. Let me quickly show you what it looks like if you add from existing questions. From here, you can click Add From. I always pick assessments so that way I can go to the actual lesson in any module that I want. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose Module 7. And I'm going to go ahead and click Practice Item Bank. Practice Item Bank, it gives you not only the questions that are in the textbook, but it also gives you some extra practice ones as well. And I'm going to click whatever questions I want. Now, if it's a Part A and B, as soon as I click Part A, it will automatically click Part B. Let's just click this one as well and this one just for the sake. And I can do Add. I can also do Add and Exit. I can also click Preview the questions that I just selected, and I can go from question to question and see what these actually look like. If you would like to preview all of them before you select any question, make sure you haven't selected anything, click Preview All, and every single question that is available, you can take a look to see what that question actually looks like. All right, so I've selected questions I want, and I'm going to click Add and Exit. And now here they are in my custom assignment. Now, a note you should be aware of. If you chose a question that was supposed to be a Part A and a Part B, unfortunately, at the time of this recording, which is in June of 2026, Reveal does not automatically keep them linked together as Part A and Part B. Instead, it'll make it two separate questions. Like here you can see question 1 and question 2, which is something I don't want. So real easy fix over here on the right, link question. I want the question 1 to be linked to question 2. So that way question 2 is actually Part A of question 1. So I'll click link question and I'm going to link it to the very next question. And I will go ahead and click create link. Now, as you can see, we have question 1A and question 1B. They are correctly linked. Okay. Another thing you all should be aware of, in the very top of your assignment, if you click on settings, here you can add some extra things that you want to be existing in your assignment. Like if this is a homework assignment, maybe you want hints to be available. Now, if there were no hints created in the questions, then there's going to be no hint available. But if Reveal already made a hint for the question, which it commonly does, or if you typed in custom made hints that you created, then you can go ahead and click the hints button and the hints you created will be showing then for the students when they click need help and then hints. You can do this. Students can check answers. You can click that they get one try, and then it immediately shows them their answer. That can be very helpful if you want a student to know whether they're doing a question right or wrong before they go to the next question, especially if it's similar questions on the same topic. Or maybe you want it to be up to 3 tries. This is something I very commonly do on my homeworks. So if they get it wrong, they can redo the problem, up to 3 attempts on each problem, and then you can have it show the correct answer after multiple tries. Unless you don't want that, then you can uncheck that option. You can also have custom directions before they begin the actual assignment. And then there's other options if you scroll down. There's a highlighter option, notepad if you want that to be a thing, line reader, protractor if that's necessary, calculator. This is very common unless it's a non-calculator type of assignment. You can do simple calculator, graphing calculator, scientific, whatever you want. If you want to include a reference sheet, like a formula sheet, here's where you can attach that file, and that will be available for the students. And then there's other options, and then you can click Save and Exit. Another thing you can do is move questions to different places within the assessment. Let's say I want question number 2 to actually be question number 1. Over here where it says Move, underneath the question, I will click that. I will select where I want it to be. I can move it to the end or to the beginning. I'm going to move it to be before question 1. And now you can see the order has changed. What used to be my question 2 is now my question 1. Another very useful tool to be aware of is the Student Preview button. At the very top, if you click Student Preview, you will be able to see the way that this assignment or assessment actually looks for the students. All right, and let's talk about creating your own questions that are possibly better than what is available online in Reveal. So where it says at the top, Add question, if you go ahead and click that and choose Create New Question, the ones I want to focus on in this video are multiple choice, obviously, fill in the blank, which is more useful than you might realize because you can do multiple blanks, cloze, which is the type of questions that give you drop-down menus, which you can do multiple drop-down menus. We're also going to talk about equation entry, the pros and cons of that, the instructions types of question, and we're going to talk about number line, and finally, coordinate grapher. Now, there are other types of questions you can fool around with if you would like. Those are the ones that I have found to be the most useful. Another type I sometimes use is choice matrix, but that is not going to be the focus of this video. All right, multiple choice questions. This is probably the most common question that we have. Creating them is very simple. You type in whatever you want. If you want to add an equation, you can click this button over here. It looks like a square root button. That will give you math type, which allows you to type in fractions, equations. You can also get the pi symbol. Lots of other symbols are available as well. So this will allow you to enter in special types of math functions and symbols. You can also choose from insert special character, lots of other symbols as well. So if you don't want a full equation, but maybe you just want the standard looking minus sign or less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, you can find that from the special characters option. After you have entered your question, you will type in your answer choices. You need to make sure you click the check mark button for whatever answer you want to be the correct answer. Otherwise, it's going to give you an error message when you try to save the problem. If you would like to shuffle the answer choices around, you can simply do that from the shuffle option right here. Another thing you might want to do is type in reasons why certain answers are right or wrong. This will show up if you allow reasons to be shown when you assign the actual assessment. This will allow students to see why they got things right or wrong if you have typed those in for each answer choice, or maybe you only type it in for the correct answer choice. And for all types of questions, you can type in your own custom hints if you would like to do that. You can also type in example problems if you want to make that an option, explanations, and so on. Once you're ready to go and the question is to your liking, you'll scroll to the bottom and click Save. All right, fill in the blank. This is the type of question I've really enjoyed creating because with multiple blanks, you can have it programmed to automatically give partial credit based on how many parts that the student has correct. So factoring an algebraic expression, I have programmed this to be 1/3 of a point, 0.33 per blank. So if a student gets the GCF right, but the 2 parts inside wrong, they'll only get 1/3 of a point. Very nice way of having an assignment auto-grade, but with more grace than what you would find with multiple choice. To program this, when you actually create a question of this nature, creating a double underscore will end up being a blank for a student to enter an answer in. So I have 3 double underscores here, and therefore I have 3 answers that I entered in. If I type in another double underscore, then you will see there is now a 4th answer for me to go ahead and answer in. And if I delete that, that obviously will go away. By default, Reveal will have the answer values already set to numeric, which is very nice. I highly recommend having your answer set to numeric so that way kids cannot type in words, because we can never predict what type of things students are going to type in when we don't want them to. If you do multiple blanks, I suggest that at the bottom before you click save, where it says scoring, instead of the default choice of perfect response, you can choose additive. And additive will allow you to set how many points you want each blank to be worth. So you can see here I chose 0.33, which makes the question almost 1 full point, 0.99 points. All right, let's talk about the cloze type of question, which is the drop-down menu type of question. I have really fallen in love with this type of question because of how it allows you to, again, have a question with multiple drop-downs that will be auto-scored if you program it to auto-give partial credit to your students. I'm all about working smarter, not harder. So this type of problem is a word problem where I want the students to write an inequality and then solve it. So I have the inequality set up into 2 parts. Then I have the second part being the correct inequality with the number after it. So this one said at least, so that would be greater than or equal to. And then solving the problem should be at least 24 degrees. To program this, it's the same way you would do it with fill in the blanks. When you type in a double underscore, that will create a drop-down menu. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If I want a 4th drop-down menu, then I would do 2 underscores back to back. And then it by default only gives you 2, but you can add as many here as you want. You can also choose whether you want those to be shuffled or not. By default, it will be set to shuffle. I like mine not to be shuffled, especially if I want my answers to be in a specific order, like less than and greater than, I want those to be first, and then the ones with the equal to bar I want to be next. So that might depend on the type of question that you are setting up. Again, there's places for hints, examples, explanations, and then down here, like I talked about with fill in the blank, if you have multiple drop-down menus, I would choose the option additive, so you can choose how many points you want each drop-down menu to be. Let's talk about equation entry problems, sometimes called an equation editor. These questions are great in that they allow students to type in fractions, mixed numbers, square roots, exponents. However, there are a lot of drawbacks. Unlike the way that ALEKS is set up, where students can only choose the fraction button if it's only supposed to be a fraction, or only be able to choose the inequality symbols if it's supposed to be setting up as an inequality. There's no way you can customize the choices that students have to choose from other than the choice of basic equation editor versus the full math equation editor, which is one of the options when you are creating the question. I normally choose basic. Full math has so many choices. The only way you would ever want this is if you're doing a repeating bar type of answer, then full math is the way you're going to have to go. Other than that, I would choose basic math. The problem with this type of question, as I was already talking about, is you cannot prevent students from typing in things you don't want them to type in. For example, how many of you have had a student who has typed the answer is, and then they go ahead and give the answer, and you're like, no, I only wanted you to type in the actual answer, not the phrase the answer is. So this can be a major problem for auto scoring. If you're going to do equation editors, you're going to probably have to go back and check to see why kids got certain ones wrong. Maybe they just typed something in ridiculous that they shouldn't have, but their answer was actually right. So this, I would try to avoid these type of questions as much as possible because of the unpredictability of what students might type in. Having said that, If you type in your directions that you are telling the students you only want the final answer, don't type in steps of work. Don't type in spaces between the parts of the mixed number or the algebraic expression or the equation. Only type in the final answer. That might help to prevent students from doing things you don't want them to do. But the bottom line is you're going to have to train your students to only type in final answers with no spaces, no work. You're going to have to train them to do that early in the school year. When you create problems like this, you might want to add in other ways that students might type in the answer. Like if the answer is a mixed number, you might want to type in the choice where it's a space in between the whole number and the fraction part. I know that sounds annoying, but that can also help to prevent things getting marked wrong that really aren't wrong. It's just the kid typing in something that you weren't hoping that they would type. Let's talk about the instruction type of question. You might be like, why would I ever choose this? Well, if you want to have very clear instructions and you don't want it to be on the opening screen because you're afraid the kids ignore that opening screen, then you might want to have an instruction type of question, put wherever you want. I like to use it for embedding videos that I have created or that I have found online. The way that you can do that is over here where you see what looks like the YouTube play button. It says insert edit media. I can then go to embed, and from the video that I created, I can find the embed code by clicking share and then choosing embed and then copying the code and then pasting that back in by hitting Control V. And there's my code, and then it will insert the video for me. By the way, I like to type in to tell the students that they should be watching the full length of the video and at normal speed, because you know some kids are going to want to put it on 2x speed. And then let's talk about the number line types of questions. These questions allow students to maybe just plot points, or even better, it can allow students to, if you program it this way, to actually have inequality shading. So if I want the starting point to be -7, I can choose closed point or open point. Obviously, this does not have the equal to bar, so I need open point. And as you can see now, it makes that open. And then I can click connect points, add arrow, and then I can shade whichever way I'm supposed to. If I accidentally messed up, I can clear it. That's a nice online feature for inequalities or graphing multiple dots. The only bad thing about this, there is no way to program it to auto give partial credit. So if the kid had the dot or open circle at the right place, but shaded the wrong way, there's no way you can program it to give half credit. Very unfortunate. When you're creating this type of question, obviously you type in the question at the beginning, and then down here, you can choose what the minimum and maximum value is. You can choose whether you want decimals or fractions. If you are going to have any decimals or fractions, you can choose the tick mark interval, whether you want it to be every one whole number value or every half, or maybe you want to count it by 2s or 5s or 10s or whatever. You can also choose how often it's labeled. I like to have the option, which is set by default, to snap to tick marks. If you somehow want students to be able to snap in between, like whole number or integer values, then you might want to choose allowing points between tick marks. There's a tolerance level that you can set as well. And then you can go ahead and choose what you want the answer to look like. Now, at the time of this recording, early June of 2026, for some reason this is glitching and I am not able to actually show you how you set the answers. I don't know why it's glitching right now, but hopefully whenever you do this, this glitch will no longer be a thing. And finally, let's talk about the coordinate grapher type of question. Now, this is different than the reveal pre-made online graphing questions. And I apologize that it's different, but if you want to create your own custom graphing, like maybe you're an 8th grade teacher and you're teaching how to graph from slope, intercept, form, you can make it so that you can click the line button and then they can drag their 2 points to wherever you have programmed them to be. So if I'm graphing using the slope and y-intercept, and my y-intercept is -4, I will move this down here to -4. And then if my slope is 3/5, Then from here, I'll count up 1, 2, 3, and then over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It actually shows the students while they're dragging what order pair they're at, which is kind of nice. To program this is a little bit trickier than what you would think. Down here where it says configure available tools, I recommend unchecking whatever you don't want students to have options to do. Because if you give them too many options, then you're adding unpredictability, and you might have students doing things you don't want them to do, and therefore it will not be auto-scored the way that you want it to be auto-scored. Because you might have kids who have correct graphs, but they did weird things to it, like changed the color or added an extra point or whatever, and therefore it's going to be marked wrong. By default, almost everything is going to already be checked. So you're going to have to uncheck those options that you don't want to be available to the students. So if you're doing lines, graphing lines, I recommend not having colors as an option at all. I recommend not having extra points available. I only want them to have the line with arrows on both ends available. I don't want the other ones. I don't want other interesting graphing shape tools. I only want that one tool. So you're going to get to that from configure available tools. Unfortunately, there is no way for this type of question to auto give partial credit. So if a kid had 1 point correct and the other point was wrong, it's just going to mark the whole thing wrong. There's no way you can set it to auto give like half credit. Okay, the only other thing I want to give as advice in this video is the possibility that you might choose a question pre-made by Reveal that is set to equation entry, and you don't want it to be equation entry because of the unpredictability of what students might type in. You can't prevent them from typing in words, and you want it to be fill in the blank, numeric only. How do you change the question type? Well, unfortunately, if you try to edit a pre-made question by Reveal, there is no way to change the question type. So you're stuck with it being equation entry, which I do not recommend doing. So what you're going to have to do is, if you want a question pre-made by Reveal, I would still choose that question, select the question. But then when you want it to change formats, click edit like I did. Highlight the entire question, or you can click Control A, which will also highlight the entire question. Click Control C to copy it, and then back out of that question, create a brand new question, choose fill in the blank, and then hit Control V to paste that question in, and then type in a double underscore. So that way you can go ahead and enter the answer. And now you have created the same type of question that was already made in Reveal, but in a fill in the blank format, which will prevent students from typing in letters and words. Okay, I hope you have found the information in this video to be useful to you. This will also be posted on Canvas in the secondary curriculum resources, so that way you can access this at any time. Thanks for watching.